Today I'd like to talk about something I'm thankful for. My 1996 Dodge Ram diesel pickup truck. Old Cummins 12-valver. I like this truck for a few reasons. First of all, I can understand it. I'm a mechanic. I naturally like machines. And if I have a machine that I don't understand, that bothers me. New trucks have bundles of wires this big around, 17 different computers and computer screens. I realize I'm talking like I'm an old person, but I can't wrap my head around that stuff. I understand every system of this truck, and that's a comfort. It also gets good gas mileage. Fuel economy, about 19 miles per gallon empty, 12 miles per gallon when we tow our fifth wheel trailer, 33 feet long, about 9,000 pounds. This has been a reliable truck. We towed that trailer all the way across the United States, from California to Florida.
That was a 37-footer, wasn't it?
Right, that wasn't our 33-footer, that was our 37-foot gooseneck toy hauler that we towed to Florida, which was heavier. That was over 10,000 pounds. Not a complaint from this truck. It's slow. That's a disadvantage. From the factory, this 96 Dodge produces 180 horsepower. That's a lot less than the 400, 500, 600, however much they make these days. However, a nice thing about these trucks is that a feller can add at least 50 horsepower, even more, probably 100 horsepower, if he really wants to smoke the transmission in a hurry, with pretty much nothing but a screwdriver. It's a beautiful thing about these trucks, and don't tell me the guys that engineered this weren't just a little bit devious when they installed this engine in this truck. They knew what they were doing. A little Easter egg for anybody with some mechanical aptitude, enough to turn a screwdriver. One reason I like these trucks is because when I was young, this was a new body style. Everything before this had a square nose. This was the first truck that deviated from that with these lower contours for the headlights.
Although there's nothing wrong with a square nose.
Nothing wrong with a square nose. I like the OBS Fords too. Not as much as this, but they're a good truck. Reliability wise, good trucks. Something else about this engine that I think makes it a better choice for a lot of guys over older trucks from Ford and Chevy is that this 5.9 Cummins is like the Chevy 350 small block of diesels. They respond really well to modifications. But most of you guys already know that. These are cheap to maintain. Tires are cheap. They're only 16-inch rims. Cheap. I hesitate to say that word, cheap, with regard to the tires, because they aren't cheap. They're still not cheap, but they're a lot less expensive. I'm not rolling 20s on this, but I've got a bigger roll of 20s in my pocket when I'm done buying tires with this truck. Just made that up.
Thank you. We were wondering.
The simplicity is a beauty on these trucks. This engine doesn't even need electricity to run. It's like an old tractor. Matter of fact, it needs electricity to stop. The battery needs to pull down a solenoid to turn the pump off to shut the engine down on these trucks. As far as weak links, the body, interior trim finish isn't the greatest. The dashboards on these are all cracked. This one's no exception. However, it's better than many. See here, we've got some cracks. Interior's still in really good shape though for however old this is. How many years old is this? 96.
I can't math.
Almost 30 by my calculations. This particular one is a little bit of a unicorn, single cab dually. We call it Deuce because it's a dually and it's the second of this style truck that we have. The other one's called Dodgy. He's in the carport over there. I'm thankful for this truck. Do you have any opinions about Deuce?
Oh, I love it. I like driving it. It's fun.
I was talking about weak links. The elephant in the room. The truly Achilles heel of these trucks is the transmission. This has a 4.7 RE transmission. It's a derivation from the old 2-speed automatics that Dodge had in the 50s and 60s. Just an evolution from that original transmission. Power Glide, I think, but don't roast me if I'm wrong on that. I don't know my transmissions. That may be one of the only systems I don't fully understand is the internal workings of the automatic transmission. But that brings me around to another advantage of these trucks. Parts are cheap. Not only tires, but parts. If the transmission falls out of this thing, I can get a brand new one or rebuilt for probably $4,000, $3,000 and have a stout one. These transmissions have been around long enough that fellers know how they work, they know where they break, and they know how to remedy the weak points. But I believe this is the original transmission in this truck. It has how many miles?
I think 214.
214,000.
Yeah.
And we tow heavy with it. Well, we tow medium with it. I don't know if 9,000 is heavy. Another disadvantage of these trucks is you can't be in a hurry when you drive them, especially towing. I can talk about my good fuel economy, but that also means that I'm barely moving faster than the semis going up the grapevine when I'm towing my trailer, which is fine. This was cheaper to buy than a brand new $100,000 rig. I can understand it. It's cheaper to maintain, and this is worth the same amount of money today as it will be a year from now, 5 years from now. In fact, it might be worth more then.
I think you bought it for 10.
I bought it for $10,000, but then the market went bananas during COVID times. It's worth at least that now, and we've put miles on it. You buy a new truck from the dealer showroom floor, value-wise, it's like walking off a cliff once you drive over the curb. There's advantages to that too. You can tow 70 miles per hour past me pulling your toy hauler. So it's a matter of preference, but this is just a video about what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for Deuce. Let's go for a ride. One characteristic of these trucks that you might think is a positive or a negative is how noisy they are. There's no mistaking this for anything but an old diesel pickup truck. And this one has almost factory exhaust. If you come around here, you can see I have it dumping out in front of the wheel here rather than behind the axle. Another thing about these trucks is that they're a little bit leaky, but that could also be a positive or negative because it's like a perpetual rust preventative, all that oil. So you ready to go, Angel Cakes?
Yeah.
This truck hasn't been completely trouble-free. We did have a little bit of transmission trouble on one of our trips that I never really fixed. I just decided to ignore it. And it still works. Shifts a little bit funny between third and fourth gear sometimes. Like it doesn't know where to go. We'll go on about a 8-mile ride. The chairs in this truck are really comfortable. I think they're a lot softer than new vehicles, probably because they're almost 30 years old. But it might have been softer foam from the factory as well. We've got a few interior rattles, but I don't think it's bad. Then again, this is all I know. Probably the worst thing about the interior, other than the cracked dash, is that wind gets in around the door right here in severe crosswinds, or if you're going really fast, probably. But I don't go really fast in this truck. I'll tell you something else I'm thankful of. I feel exceedingly lucky that the last meal I ate didn't chip a tooth. And I'm thinking about the dentist appointment that I have to make. Or that I didn't run over a child just now. Can you imagine? Whenever I'm in a foul humor, usually, if I can think of those two things, I didn't just break a tooth, and I didn't run over a kid this afternoon, that sorts me out. This is a curvy part of our journey. I can't really say much for the around corners handling of this truck. It's probably better than a horse-drawn buggy. The radio's good in this truck. It's not the original one, but the original one was good too. This is a cheap Pioneer radio running through the factory amplifier and speakers. These trucks have an external amplifier in addition to the stereo, which makes them kind of a bother to install aftermarket stereos into if you want to move away from that setup. This still has the original audio system except for a new head unit.
There's the pretty lake.
Flat as glass. We're going over a little bit of a bumpy patch now, and you can hear the squeaks and rattles. It's letting me know it's alive. Deuce. We're almost to a straightaway, and when we get there, I'll come to a stop and do a straight line acceleration demonstration. A showcase of old Deuce's performance.
How exciting.
So here we are coming to a stop. I'll let the people behind me pass, and then we will perform our acceleration test. This truck has aftermarket wood accents. I think you should look at the gauges, and I'll look at the road. Here we are, from a stop. Pedal to the floor. And that's about as fast as I like to take her up to. I think it still performs pretty respectably. How about you?
Oh yeah.
I hope you all are having a happy Thanksgiving. If you're interested in watching yesterday's video, I'll put a link to it up on the screen. And if you'd like to see tomorrow's video, I'll put a link to that one up there as well, as soon as it's available. Thanks for being a good old truck. And thanks for watching.